Huh? What's going on?
Yep. Yep.
Oh, okay. You got it?
Yep.
Okay, so this is all right. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to part two of our conversation with Cindy Sheehan on One Plus One, your place for inconvenient truth telling and myth busting. And Cindy, getting off the topic of the campaign on Eldercide and the coronavirus crisis and what's the best approach to dealing with it. I want to talk a little bit about what happened in D.C. when Trump's cult followers, the Republican electorate, literally stormed the barricades. and all right, and this is probably one of our more controversial episodes since we're going against the grain of conventional wisdom and what's coming out of left leaning media. And you're having many people on the left saying that what happened in DC was a coup attempt, that this was a right wing putsch, and all sorts of stuff like that. And I can't believe I have to say this, guys. I'm not a fan of Donald Trump. He's not a guy I would vote for, and he's not a person I would take a bullet for. But hey, that's his electorate. They're much more motivated than ours. And so I wanted to talk about what happened in DC. And the first question and the first thing I want to talk to you about is don't the Trump supporters isn't don't they have a I mean don't they have a I mean, aren't their grievances a little bit legitimate when they say that this election was stolen from them? And the reason why I ask that, is because is because a journalist that both of us admire, that we've both had on our show, Whitney Webb, she in her, in her unlimited Hangout website talked about this was the title of the investigative piece she did. Bipartisan Washington insiders reveal their plan for chaos if Trump wins the election. She wrote this.
Right.
She published this on September the 3rd. September the 3rd of last year. The subtitle was "A group of bipartisan neoconservative Republicans and establishment Democrats have been simulating multiple catastrophic scenarios for the 2020 election, including a simulation where a clear victory by the incumbents provokes unprecedented measures which the Biden campaign could take to foil a new Trump inauguration." So again, I'm not a fan of Donald Trump, but again, don't the Trump supporters, when they say that this election has been stolen from them, don't they have a point given given what Whitney Webb has revealed in that article that she did back in September of last year, early September of last year?
So I'm not a Donald Trump fan either. I'm also not a Biden fan. So
Same here.
I really did not have a horse in the race. So I belong to the Peace and Freedom Party. I voted for Gloria La Riva. Of course, it's just a protest vote. But at least I know I can vote for somebody that, if she won, I'd be really happy, not just like, oh, I'm going to go vote for this jerk because I hate the other jerk more,
Yeah.
So, I think that, like you said, their base is way more motivated than the Democrat base for sure. But the Democrat base has also proven that they can really use turmoil and up unrest and things like that for, we saw a lot of that. But, I have protested a lot in Washington, D.C., like more than most people. And I've been in protests that had 600,000 people, protests that had, 100 people. But the last time I tried to get in the Capitol by myself, well, I wasn't by myself. I had like a few people with me. They wouldn't let me in. And so I couldn't even get in. I didn't have a group of people. We were trying to get in to disrupt the meeting between, I will admit this, to disrupt, but they didn't, they probably knew it.
Yeah.
But this wasn't. We were just in line to get a tour of the Capitol, and man, I get in line and I'm surrounded by 10 Capitol Hill police on their bikes, on segways, on foot. And so for me to believe that hundreds of people could storm inside the Capitol is very, very hard for me to believe. So I think that, for on 9/11, there's some people who think that it was made to happen by the Bush administration. They call them
Yeah.
my hoppers, or there are people who think that they knew about it and let it happen, the lie hoppers. I think
Yeah.
they knew about it and let it happen. And so the consequence of it that day, of course, the protesters didn't kill anybody. I think the cop who was killed was crushed or something. I don't know. And so all of a sudden,
And there was I think there was one Trump supporter that got shot in the face.
shot by Pence's security. What are they called? Secret Service. But and so all of a sudden, after all the liberals and radicals spent all last year protesting police violence, now we're supposed to care about the cop. The Capitol Hill police are jerks. I know this for a fact. And so I actually won $5,000 award for unlawful arrest from the Capitol Hill police one time. I don't know if you remember, but in the 2006 State of the Union, I was arrested. I was invited by one of the congresswomen, Lynn Woolsey from Marin, invited me to be her guest. As soon as I sat down, I got hauled out. And because I had a shirt on, I had a shirt that said something about arrest Bush and Cheney or something like that. And that actually turns out not to be against the law. But then, while I was like being driven around from jurisdiction to jurisdiction all night after I got arrested, CNN was already like showing that I had unrolled a banner. They actually had footage of a banner being unrolled in Congress and said it was me. So anyway, that's just that's a little bit of a side. But I've been arrested many times. I've been arrested at Capitol Hill, had myself chained to the wall for hours and hours and hours. So I know what I'm talking about. And so anyway, now we're supposed to care. Oh my God, a cop got killed. Oh, he's such a hero. But what was I saying? So now the consequence of this is domestic terrorism. We're all freaking domestic terrorists now. They're firing people who were just at the protest. Protest is legal. It's protected activity, right? And this one lady got fired from her job. She's suing her job saying, show me that I did any violence, that I did anything wrong. You're just arresting me because I was at a protest. That is scary. And that's the Democrats, that's the liberals cheering this on from their base and doing it. They're gonna try to legislate this kind of, baloney. And so
Yeah.
I've been arrested many times protesting, So protesting isn't really, they can arrest you. Rarely, I think I've paid a couple fines because I didn't want to go all the way back to DC to contest it. But yeah, I mean, that's what happens. But you don't get fired. You don't get put in prison for 10 years. Some of these people they're talking about, they want to put them in prison for 10 years. I let a sit-in of 60 people in John Conyers' office one time. We all got arrested, but we just had to pay a fine. This is just out of control, ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm of the opinion that what happened in D.C. I mean, the Trump supporters they were going to plan. I think they were planning on protesting because I think for 4 years. I mean, we have to realize this. For 4 years, the Democrats' response to undermine Donald Trump and to take down Donald Trump was through the deep state with all this bullshit anti-Russia conspiracy theories, which has which has made relations between the U.S. and Russia at its complete worst.
100%, yeah.
And so for 4 years they've been doing anti-Russia conspiracy theories, and then Mueller says, nope, Trump did not collude with the Russians. And then just before Biden and Trump are on their are on their campaign trail, they tried to impeach Donald Trump for Joe Biden's war profiteering in Ukraine,
right?
And Trump didn't get impeached. And so that's why, and then of course, you read this article that that Whitney Webb did, where you have these, where you have factions of the deep state literally working with people who are part of Joe Biden's campaign about how they're going to usurp the election from Donald Trump in the event that Donald Trump does win democratically. And so I'm of the opinion that I think the deep state knew well in advance that there was going to be people, protesting. And I think the fact that there was such a lack of security to even push back against the people who stormed Capitol Hill means that the FBI and the deep state that did want Joe Biden to win knew well in advance this is going to happen, allowed this to happen, so that now they can push through what Whitney Webb and Slow News Days and others have been saying, a Patriot Act 2.2.
And Joe Biden has bragged about writing the first Patriot Act, so USA Patriot Act. So anyway, I just want to say that there was just an article in Time magazine. I can send it to you. It's called The Secret History of the Shadow Campaign That Saved the 2020 Election. So they're talking about what you just mentioned as heroic measures.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the spin that Time is putting on it. So I'll send this article to you. So, we saw that happening I just have to correct you. Trump was impeached. He just wasn't removed from office. So there's two different things. You get impeached in the House.
Yeah.
And then it gets sent to the Senate for trial. So he didn't get removed from office the first time he was impeached. He was actually impeached twice, which is quite a feat.
But I think, I just find it frightening as much. And again, I'm not I'm no fan of Donald Trump. I don't like the Republican Party, but like you said, I'm not a fan of the Democrats either. I'm fed up of all of us living under rival oligarchs and them doing stupid squabbles when they agree on way more than they disagree. And I just think it's very frightening that so many people on the left are cheering on, Donald Trump, an outgoing president on his way out, cheering on the censorship of Donald Trump on Twitter. And again, they're cheering on, many people like, many QAnon type of people getting kicked off Twitter and Facebook. And then that you're saying, yes, these people are domestic terrorists, and
I'm kicked off Facebook right now. It's really is.
Yeah, and the point, and the point I'm trying to make is people, as the left, they need to stop cheering this on, because we're digging our own graves. And because giving more power to Silicon Valley, to the FBI, to the NSA, CIA, giving more power to them, that it's just digging our own graves, because we all know that historically, institutionally, these are the real fascists. These are the reactionaries who use all of their energy to suppress the left. And I just don't understand why so many people on the left are cheering on a new Patriot Act 2.2 coming on, and how we went from a summer of people protesting against the police and talking about defunding the police, to all of a sudden everybody is now, like you mentioned, cheering on the police because they claim they're going to be fighting against fascists and white supremacists.
And I don't think there's been so many troops in Washington, D.C. since the Civil War. And, that's really scary too. And it violates posse comitatus to have U.S. troops being used against the people which is what they are using them for, to suppress dissension. And they're only supposed to be used in natural disasters. So if there's a natural disaster, that's what the National Guard is supposed to be used for, and not to police, not to be an added police force. So I don't understand. I'm with you. I don't understand how anybody can look at this and see anything. And I don't like Republicans. I don't like right wingers. I don't like conservative people. I was the target of them for so long. It was just really awful. But not once did I say that person should be taken off the air. That person should be censured. That person should be fired. That person needs to, be kicked out of Congress or whatever. And because that's just like, it's just like a fundamental right in the United States, is to have a different opinion from, the mainstream, or what they really want is just one party. One party rule. And we know that essentially there is just one party, right? But
Exactly.
but what they really want to do is suppress any kind of thought that doesn't agree with what they're thinking. And I'm talking mostly about liberals and the Democrat base, is that we don't want to see, hear, or know about any kind of ideas or opposition to the way we think. That's why I'm off Facebook right now. And so, not by choice. And so diversity, they're always saying diversity. We need diversity in hiring. We need diversity in school applications. We need, and school attendance. We need all this diversity except of thought. We want you to be 100% lockstep with the way we think, and we have no problem if however you're persecuted to stop you from having different ideas than from what we did. And it's like, I think we need a revolution. When I said the Constitution was bullshit, I meant that it was written by slave owners, people who were actively trying to exterminate the indigenous population, all men, all white, all property owners. It might have been a little progressive, but there were some states that said, we're not going to ratify it unless you add a Bill of Rights to it, And so, so that's what I meant. It's not a contemporary constitution written by the people, like Venezuela's constitution, written by the people and ratified by the people. And so, I don't know. I don't know why I mentioned that, but it's just really a super frightening situation. Some of your colleagues on Black Agenda Report, like Margaret Kimberly, has been very outspoken about, I don't like these people, but, calling for their censorship is a very slippery slope.
Yeah, John McGraw has also been speaking
Yeah,
out
yeah,
against
he's been really also
against
really good about
against that,
that.
because I think I remember I was being interviewed on an Eastern European, a pan Eastern European left leaning outlet called The Barricade, and they wanted my response to what happened on Capitol Hill. And the one thing that that me and Maria Trinette and Boyan Stanislavski talked about is, I think we're seeing a new age of egregious censorship that's going to be happening with the incoming Biden administration. And there was already a lot of that's happening. And this wasn't even really Donald Trump even ordering this, but you already had, like RT was constantly harassed throughout the Trump administration under the banner of fighting, fake news and Russian disinformation. Press TV had their, YouTube, and I
But
think they also kicked off of
under
Facebook.
Obama, it was also being done under Obama. RT and Press TV were being like
Telesur as well.
intermittently shut up and stuff like that.
Yeah, Telesur as well. Then there was this Neil McCarthy thing on Washington Post about proper knots, where he gave a list of all of these left wing and right wing websites where they said helped take down Hillary Clinton. And
I was really sad because Cindy Sheehan Soapbox wasn't on it. I tried really hard for a long time to expose her. And I just really wish that the Washington Post would have given me at least an honorable mention for that.
But if you were mentioned, if you were mentioned, then the algorithms were going to hit you, and then you would have lost a lot of your Google traffic and Facebook traffic, right?
I already have, so anyway, it doesn't really matter much. But as far as Biden is concerned, like I said earlier, he signed 42 executive orders in 9 days. He has recognized Juan Guaido as the legitimate president of Venezuela, even when other countries are saying, nah, not so much anymore. Biden has reaffirmed his support for Juan Guaido in Venezuela. He said, when I get if you elect me, I'm going to re-sign the nuclear deal with Iran. Now he's not doing that either, So I don't know what it's going to take for people to finally realize that those criminals in Washington, D.C. are diabolical, and they don't represent us, they don't support us. They support the military-industrial complex, the media-industrial complex, the medical-industrial complex, pharma-industrial complex, everything that brings them money and power, and that's all they care about. If they're, Nancy Pelosi, if she's the Speaker of the House and her caucus is in the majority, she gets more money and power. So that's what they're fighting over. They're fighting over money and power. They're not fighting over who's going to be, in a better place to make the lives of the average American better. Nancy Pelosi, her husband just bought stock. It was on, I forget which company. It was just on my blog. They just made Tesla. She has made so much money. And
how been making a killing since. Yeah, it's just unbelievable. And I think this new age of censorship is going to get more and more lethal, and I just don't see how we're going to get out of this because and this goes back to a theme we always talk about. It's a theme I often return to on 1+1. Is so much of the left-leaning people and left-leaning outlets, they keep propping up the Democrats when they're part of the problem. Right. And I just think to myself, if at this point in time, with the coronavirus, with with the climate crisis, and with the threat of nuclear war hanging over us again, if people haven't gotten religion that we need to stop supporting the two-party duopoly in the U.S. and other places, then I just don't know how we're ever going to get out of this vicious cycle. What do you say to that?
Well, with all the censorship and with domestic terrorism now being legislated against, I don't, it's going to be really hard. I went to a different platform from Facebook, but how can we get, this was about technology. They make us so dependent on it that when they pull the rug out from under us, that we're kind of lost. It was a way to, get the exposure for our ideas and, for what we were doing and things like that. So they're gonna make it extremely difficult. I have 10 more days left of a 30-day ban, but today I another ban.
Why were you banned from Facebook? What was their
hang on 1 second. So, and then today I got 30 more days on 2 different things from something I posted on March 29th last year. And so this ban I got is because I said that I wanted. It wasn't a really nice post, but it was tongue in cheek. It was made tongue in cheek. I said I wanted to kick Fauci and Gates in the teeth. And so, and the thing is, I would never do that, even if they were next to me. And am I ever going to be next to them and have an opportunity to do that?
Nope.
No. So, I mean, I post all kinds of stuff against the duopoly, against imperialism, capitalism. All day long, I'm posting just really provocative things. But last year, this one they dinged me on for March 29th, I said, I'm going out for a walk, call the Gestapo. Alert the Gestapo. And you know what? It was on the background of all the laughy emojis. Obviously, I was kidding. Obviously, I was kidding about kicking Fauci and Gates in the teeth, but but they're just like going back now and picking and picking and nitpicking and nitpicking and nitpicking every little thing. So any voice that it doesn't see, this is the range that they're going to allow us. Right?
Yeah.
So I guess if we want to not be banned or censored, we have to very cleverly have to do something that I'm not good at, because I think something, I say it, I write it, very cleverly learn how to say what we need to say within those boundaries. So, we have a better chance of not, being censored. But I've been censored for a long time, because right after my son was killed and I went to Crawford, Texas, I was on all the media all the time. I had to turn down, big media outlets because I just didn't have enough time and I was traveling.
Yeah.
But once they figured out that I meant what I was saying, and I even meant it when Democrats did it, right? They shut me off. So they don't have to they don't have to publicly say we're censoring Cindy Sheehan. They just like stop calling. They stop stop inviting me to come on. And so the censorship has but with social media, all of us saw this platform, right? Where you didn't have to be like a Cindy Sheehan or Noam Chomsky to get invited on the big things. You had a big platform. And so I didn't feel so bad because I had Cindy Sheehan Soapbox, I had social media. You remember MySpace, I had MySpace, and I had Facebook. So you don't feel so bad because you're still reaching many people. But they're not going to let us anymore unless we stay, right here.
Yeah, and I think in closing, I would just, I just say to anyone who, who claims to be on the left or is part of, whatever left-leaning outlet or organization you're part of, guys, do not cheer for censorship, of even, of the most vilest right-winger. Do not cheer on censorship, and do not cheer on this incoming Biden administration who wants to police everyone and anyone, because yes, at first, first it's the Alex Jones, then it's Milo Yiannopoulos, then it'll be,
who are despicable. I can't stand them, but guess what? I don't have to look at them. I don't have to read anything by them. I don't have to watch their programs or whatever. Or if I do, I have a brain and I can figure out if they're just bullshit or not, So it's just like
once they boot those people out, guys, they're going to come after you, and it's just basic history 101 that the CIA, the FBI, and what we call the deep state or the national security states, these are the fascist institutions who will come after you. They are going to come after the left, and you may think, okay, so it's just going to be Cindy, it's just going to be Yuri, or it's just going to be the gray zone they go after. No, guys, they're going to go for anyone who's to the left of AOC or is a Bernie Sanders type of person. And again, I mean, you think back to the George Floyd protests and the calls for defunding the police. and radically, we have to radically, have a different approach to law enforcement being the solution to everything. Again, it's, I'm repeating myself now, but it's just suicidal, and we're just, and the left is just digging its own grave, thinking that, giving more power to the FBI and the deep state is the way to fight.
Don't they understand how dangerous those institutions are? Just anecdotally, when they were saying that Russia stole the election, right, for Trump in 2016, that was a constant theme in mainstream media, liberals, Democratic base, whatever. And I would say, no, there's no proof of that. They didn't do that. I'm sure they had a preference. And what did they find? Like there was maybe like 3,000 Facebook ads or something that they sponsored. What does the U.S. do in every country in almost every election? And let's just talk about Venezuela and the tens of millions of dollars they've spent trying to overthrow the Bolivarian Revolution. But anyway, so I would say you're believing like known liars and mass murderers, right?
Exactly.
And they'd be like, Cindy, do you know more than 18 intelligence agencies? And I'm like, one thing I know is they're lying to you. They're full of shit, and you're believing exactly what they want you to believe. Good job. Because the FBI and CIA and NSA, they're just really upstanding citizens of the world community, right?
Yeah, I know. It drives me crazy. But what can we do? Well, the only thing we can do is support those voices that keep consistently saying to people, do not trust the CIA, do not trust these professional liars and murderers, because these are the same outlets, your Black Agenda reports, Cindy Sheehan, Soapbox, Unlimited Hangouts, Minpress News, The Gray Zone, the Consortium News. These are the same outlets that have been warning people that, guys, this war in Venezuela is just another war for oil. The war in Syria is just another Western Gulf project, and this anti-Russia hysteria, and now it's this anti-China hysteria. It's that's just the deep state using you guys to be it's useful. That's just the deep state using you guys to divide and conquer us, so that they can continue, literally the race to the bottom with their reactionary capitalism and this endless arms race, which is going to be the death of us all.
Well,
and I think we just have to.
Aren't you happy for the right and for QAnon that they also have a demonic country like the left and liberals do? So they can have their China, and the Democrats have their Russia, and the Republicans have their China, and we're stuck in the middle. Where this admiral just said that, hey, it might not be so bad if we have a nuclear war with China. What? An admiral said that. Yeah, it wouldn't be so bad. Oh my God, they're maniacs. They're diabolical psychopaths. But we have to believe them when they say something, like Russia stole the election, or China, now China stole the election for Biden, I guess. I don't know. But Biden, like you said, Biden was the one that was committing crimes in the Ukraine. And his son.
If anyone should have been impeached, it should have been Joe Biden, because what he did in Ukraine, that was literally the equivalent of what Dick Cheney did when Bush invaded Iraq.
Right. But that's what they do.
But on that, yeah, I think all we can do is is the real anti-war, the real anti-imperialist movement just needs to remain vigilant, and we just need to. At this point, I don't even know how to engage with people anymore when people say to me that, like, we need to be vigilant against the Chinese, or we need to be vigilant against the Russians, and it's just like, guys, sorry, this just isn't going to help us out, and
the whole world needs to be vigilant against those diabolical psychopaths in Washington, D.C. That's one place that every human on this planet can unite. you know. So the profiteers, the capitalists, and I'm talking about the big billionaires, and the politicians and media, those are the true enemies. And yet they have us fighting, you know, worker fighting against worker. So they get us fighting, divide and conquer, and then they just vacuum everything out of society.
Well, on that note, we were joined on this edition of 1+1 with Cindy Sheehan. You can check Cindy Sheehan on Cindy Sheehan Soapbox. I'm going to link to that, and folks, do join her campaign, Justice for COVID-19 Eldercide. I'm also going to link to that. And also check out marchonthepentagon.com. And Cindy, before we end this conversation, so at the moment, March on the Pentagon,
it's kind of dormant. Yeah, I wouldn't check that out. It's kind of dormant at the time, you know, at this time. So, but you know, right. Maybe, who knows? Maybe we can get it going again. Hopefully.
Hopefully, Julian Assange and millions of victims of the war machine, depend on these organizations.
We can't, I guess they count even less than they did before COVID, which is like super heartbreaking.
Well, folks, be sure to check out Cindy on all those organizations. I'm going to link to that, and remain vigilant, and as the old Public Enemy song goes, don't believe the hype, and to fight the and to fight the FBI, to fight the deep state, to fight our police states. You don't give more power to them, and I'll just end on that. So, Cindy, thank you so much for joining us. I look forward to hopefully having you back on soon. And again, thank you for honoring me and coming back on the show.
Thank you, Yuri. It's been great. It's been a good conversation. You took my voice.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.